You spend your entire life building skyscrapers on shifting quicksand. Yet you wonder why the floor screams and the glass shatters as the earth begins to swallow your legacy whole. Calculating your dividends while the very air you breathe is being taxed by a world you never truly owned. Welcome back to Radiant Mercy. My beloved brothers and sisters, listen with the ears of your spirit, for the hour of superficial comfort has expired, and the era of unvarnished truth has arrived. You have lived in a hallucination of certainty, believing that the stability of your fiat currency, the strength of your political borders, and the digital accolades on your glowing screens were a fortress. But I tell you that the ground is beginning to liquefy beneath the weight of a collective bankruptcy that is more than financial, it is ontological. For you have built your house upon the sand of seeing is believing, while the eternal law dictates that the righteous shall live by faith alone, as stated in Romans 1:17. Look at the world around you. Observe the fiscal necrosis eating away at the global markets, the geopolitical volatility that makes the maps of yesterday look like fragments of a forgotten dream, and the social engineering that seeks to turn your divine identity into a mere data point in an algorithmic cage. You feel the tremors, do you not? You feel that vibration in your chest when you wake at 3 in the morning, that cold whisper that tells you the old supports are slipping from your grasp. This is not a punishment. It is a mechanical necessity of grace. For when the world's artificial light flickers out, you are forced to find the sun that never sets. You have asked for faith, but you have mistaken faith for a feeling of safety. Yet I tell you that faith is not nurtured in the calm days of high-yield savings and predictable elections. It is formed in the crucible of the unknown, where the supports you once relied on, your career, your reputation, your health, your government, dissolve into the mist, and you are left with only one place to hold on, and that place is me. Think of Peter as he stepped out of the boat into the stormy sea in Matthew 14. The waves did not cease their roaring just because he stepped out. The wind did not stop its howling to accommodate his courage. In fact, the sea became more violent the moment he chose to walk upon it. Your life is mirroring this exact moment in history. The storm you see in the news, the inflation that devalues your labor, the wars that threaten to consume the horizon. These are the waves, and if your eyes are fixed on the height of the swell, if you're obsessed with the fluctuating metrics of the market or the pole numbers of a dying system, you will sink. You will be consumed by the gravity of fear, because you have chosen to believe in the storm more than you believe in the architect of the sea. The world celebrates speed. It demands instant gratification and immediate solutions to complex spiritual debts. But I value growth, and a great tree does not rise in a single night. Its roots must go deep into the dark, silent earth before its trunk can grow tall enough to withstand the hurricanes of the coming apocalypse. You are currently in the dark soil phase, feeling buried, feeling forgotten, feeling like the darkness is an enemy. But the darkness is merely the womb of your transformation. Do not mistake the delays in your life for indifference, for I do not answer prayers by making everything happen instantly to keep you comfortable in a state of spiritual stagnation. I allow the long days, the endless waiting, the seasons where time moves with a glacial cruelty and answers are nowhere to be found, because it is in those very days that I am shaping your soul. For the testing of your faith produces a patience that is not merely the ability to wait without frustration, but the inner strength forged when you continue to believe, even without seeing results. We are living in a time of a great reset of the spirit, where the systems of man are being weighed in the balance and found wanting. You see the central banks struggling to maintain the illusion of value, and you see political leaders masquerading as saviors while they are merely puppets of their own unrefined egos. But you, my child, are called to a different economy. An economy of grace, where the more you give, the more you have, and the more you lose of your false self, the more you find of your eternal reality. Do not see your pain as a sentence. See it as a curriculum. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, as Hebrews 12:6 declares. And this discipline is not the anger of a tyrant, but the precision of a surgeon, removing a tumor that would otherwise kill the patient. You are being refined for a world that is coming. A world that cannot be perceived by those who are still intoxicated by the cheap wine of materialism. Look at Job. He did not understand why his wealth vanished, why his children were taken, why his body became a landscape of suffering. He sat in the ashes of his former life and demanded an audit of the universe. But in the end, he realized that his ears had only heard of me, but now his eyes finally saw me. His loss was the price of his vision, and your current losses, whether they be financial, social, or emotional, the currency you are paying for a sight that penetrates the veil of this three-dimensional prison. You will look back one day and realize that what I did not give you when you pleaded was actually a mercy. That if I had answered your prayer for immediate comfort, I would have trapped you in a version of yourself that was too small for the destiny I have carved for you. The obstacles you encounter are not outside my plan. They are part of the architecture of your salvation. When you asked to be transformed, you did not realize that transformation requires the death of the old, and death is never a comfortable process. Every tear you have shed in the secret of your room, every moment of panic as you looked at the rising costs of living and the falling standards of morality, not a single one of those drops of water has been wasted. I collect them. I analyze them. I use them to water the seeds of a resilience that will make you a pillar in the house of God when the rest of the world has crumbled into dust. Do not let the flame of hope within you fade simply because the sky is covered with clouds. For the silence you hear is not the emptiness of my absence, but the depth of a plan being woven beyond the reach of your natural senses. The Lord is the faithful God who keeps his covenant, as Deuteronomy 7:9 promises. And my covenant is not with your bank account or your physical comfort, but with your eternal spirit. You are like a tree planted by the water in Jeremiah 17. But to reach that water, your roots must push through the rocks and the hard clay of trials. You are not called to live by fleeting moments of excitement or the highs of a superficial spirituality. You are called to stand steadfast in every season, even the winter of the soul. You feel like a seed buried in darkness, but it is within the soil that life begins to gather its strength. Tears water the seed. They do not ruin the harvest. So keep walking, even when you cannot see the destination. Keep believing, even when your emotions waver like a candle in a gale. For I am at work deeper and greater than anything your limited human logic can imagine. And when the season of fulfillment arrives, you will realize that every trial, every delay, every confusing turn was a brushstroke in a perfect portrait of love that I have been completing for you. Do not measure the journey only by the present stretch of road, for I am leading you not merely to a destination, but into a total transformation of your being. Lift up your eyes and behold the heavens, where But I offer acceptance so that you may begin the journey toward perfection. Do not let your past declare who you are. Do not let the voice of shame cause you to forget the call of love. For there is now no condemnation for those who are in me, as Romans 8:1 declares. Accusation is the language of the enemy, but restoration is the language of your Father. You think you must fix everything before drawing near, but that is like a sick man saying he will go to the doctor only after he is cured. Come as you are, with your fractures and your fragility. For my grace does not only cover, it cleanses. It does not merely remove shame, it heals the very memory of it. Stop striving to earn what has already been given to you for free. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, as Ephesians 2:8 states. You are born again into a new life where the old metrics of the world no longer apply. Why are you so harsh with yourself when I am patient with you? The Lord is compassionate and slow to anger, as Psalm 103 verse 8 reminds us. If I look upon you with mercy, why do you look upon yourself with severity? I see your journey. I see the times you have risen after falling, and to me that resilience is more precious than all the gold in the central banks of the earth. Lay down the burden of trying to save yourself. Stop striving to reach an image the world has required of you, and let my grace work within you. For you are already loved, and from that foundation of acceptance, you will grow not out of fear, but out of an assurance that you are accepted. And in that freedom, you will become what I intended for you from the beginning of time. You are not a copy. You are a unique expression of my light. And when you try to follow the patterns of others, you obscure the uniqueness I have placed within you. Return to rest in me, for rest is not passivity. It is the ultimate form of trust that I am at work even when you pause. And as we move deeper into the secrets of this transformation, you must prepare yourself for the revelation of the snare that has been set for this generation. A snare of digital shadows and economic chains that only those with a refined spirit will escape. For the path ahead is narrow, but it leads to a glory that no eye has yet seen. And I am here to guide you through the fire until you shine like pure gold. Hold your breath and steady your heart, for we are about to peel back the veil on the mechanisms of the world and the final strategy of the enemy in the next chapter of this awakening. You are standing at the edge of a new reality, and the transition you are about to experience will redefine everything you thought you knew about power and survival. So stay with me as we descend into the heart of the storm to find the eye of eternal peace. You have sold your soul for the convenience of a glowing rectangular god in your pocket. Yet you tremble as the algorithms begin to dictate your very thoughts, and the digital walls of your self-imposed prison start to close in, leaving you as a ghost in a machine you can no longer control. Welcome back to Radiant Mercy, my beloved child. We have arrived at the hour of the Great Deciphering, where the veils of the globalist theater are being torn asunder, and the raw machinery of the spiritual adversary is being exposed to the light of the morning star. For the snare I warned you about is not a crude trap of iron and rope, but a sophisticated web of hyper-normalization and algorithmic subjugation, designed to erase your divine signature and replace it with a social credit score. You look at the volatility of the markets and the theater of political polarization, and you think these are the primary conflicts. But I tell you, they are merely the smoke and mirrors of a much deeper ontological war. A war for the sovereignty of your attention and the ultimate destination of your spirit. For the enemy knows that he cannot take what you do not give. So he has designed a world where you voluntarily surrender your freedom for the illusion of safety and your identity for the comfort of the crowd. As John 8:36 declares, "If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." But this freedom is being systematically liquidated by a technocratic tyranny that seeks to turn your life into a series of predictable data points. Listen closely, for the ground is about to heave with a seismic shift, an event approaching faster than your analysts can calculate, and closer than your reasoning can measure. It will come like an unexpected collision between the old world and the emerging reality. A black swan of such magnitude that it will shatter the complacency of the masses and force every soul to choose their master. This collision is not my anger, but my intervention. For you have gone too far in your confidence in your own ability to manage a collapsing civilization. And in that haste, you have stepped away from the refuge of the Most High. Remember the story of Balaam, who rode with arrogance until the invisible obstacle forced a halt. Your society is currently Balaam, and the collision is the angel of protection, standing in the path to keep you from rushing into an abyss of total spiritual obsolescence. This event will strip away the outer layers of your confidence, your titles, your net worth, your social standing, and leave you standing in the naked truth of who you are when the power goes out and the screens go dark. Do not resist this breaking, for it is the only way to expose the snare that has been hidden in plain sight. The snare of the digital dollar, the snare of the curated lie, and the snare of the spiritual ego that believes it can save itself through intellectual accumulation. As Isaiah 53:4 reminds us, I have borne your griefs and carried your sorrows, yet you continue to carry them as if the cross was a failed transaction. You live as though the sentence of shame still hangs over you, because the adversary has convinced you that your past mistakes are a debt you must pay with eternal suffering. But I tell you that when I cried, "It is finished," in John 19:30, I was not making a suggestion. I was declaring the bankruptcy of the kingdom of darkness. The record of your debt has been nailed to the wood. Yet you keep returning to the courtroom of your own mind to argue with a judge who has already dismissed the case. Stop building a prison out of memories I have already erased. For the adversary uses shame as a leash to keep you from the threshold of your destiny. You fear the upcoming economic reset. You fear the transition into central bank digital currencies and the loss of your financial autonomy. But I tell you that true autonomy is not found in a ledger, but in the spirit. The snare is believing that your survival depends on a system that hates your soul, while your true provision is managed by the Father, who feeds the birds of the air and clothes the lilies of the field. The global architects seek to implement a system of total surveillance, where your ability to buy and sell is tied to your compliance with their narrative. But I call you to a different economy, a kingdom that cannot be hacked, and a wealth that cannot be inflated away. You must learn to discern the voice of the spirit from the noise of the panic industrial complex. For the enemy speaks through the roar of the crowd and the frantic updates on your feed, while I speak in the gentle whisper of the stillness, as 1 Kings 19:12 illustrates. I am not in the wind of the political revolution or the fire of the social upheaval. I am in the silence that follows the collapse of your expectations. The collision I speak of will be a mercy. But what does it profit a man to gain the whole digital world and lose his own soul? The snare is the promise of inclusion at the cost of your divinity. I saw the net before it was spread, and I have prepared a way of escape, as 1 Corinthians 10:13 promises. But the way of escape is not a side door. It is the narrow gate of total surrender. You must be willing to let go of the version of the future you have been trying to build and embrace the one I have already ordained. For my plans for you are for peace and not for harm, as Jeremiah 29:11 declares. Even when those plans look like a demolition in the short term, you look at the ruins of your expectations and think, nothing remains. But I look at the fragments and see the potential for resurrection, as Ezekiel saw the dry bones in Ezekiel 37 and watched them become an army. I am watching the dry bones of your faith begin to stir with the breath of a new life. The collision is the breath. It is the catalyst that turns your theoretical belief into a living, breathing reality. You have been a listener of the word, but now you are being called to be the incarnation of it. The world does not need more experts. It needs more witnesses. People who have walked through the fire and do not smell like smoke. People who have lost everything and found that they have never been more wealthy. The snare is the fear of being cancelled by men. But I tell you that the only cancellation you should fear is the cancellation of your connection to the source of life. Look at the sky and see the stars. They do not struggle to shine. They simply occupy the space I have given them. You were created to be a luminary in a dark age, not a shadow of someone else's opinion. The adversary seeks to standardize you, to make you a commodity in a global marketplace of souls. But I have called you by name and called you mine, as Isaiah 43:1 states. The collision will reveal that the standard of the world is a crooked measure, and those who have aligned themselves with the truth will be the only ones standing when the dust settles. You have felt the distance between us growing because you have been trying to fix yourself before coming to me. But that is the snare of the law, the snare of performance. You think you need to gather the broken pieces of your life and glue them back together before you are worthy of my touch. But I am the potter, and you are the clay. I do not need you to fix the pot, I need you to stay on